Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys. Celtic Warband here, and welcome back to the world of Rome 2 Total War. In today's battle, I have a subscribers battle replay submitted by Max Laser. He has supplied very many good replays in the past, and this one is no exception. So I hope you guys do enjoy. We'll take a look at the army comps first, and then we'll get the battle started. The first army we have on the battlefield today is Sabian, commanded by Max Laser, and I have a sneaky suspicion that Sabian is his new favorite faction because he does tend to play it quite a lot. However, it is a really good DLC faction, to be fair. Very solid roster, good mix of solid infantry and cavalry alike. But let's take a look at what he has brought to this battlefield today, starting with the archers in the front lines, and I will have the stats bar up as well so you can see how they compare to other units. But in the front lines, he has 4 units of the Sabian archers, and he also has 1 unit of the Levy skirmishers back here. For his mainline infantry, he's brought some solid spear infantry, 5 units of Marib Royal Guard, and then he also has 2 units of the mercenary Masgat Marauders. So good solid medium melee infantry to support the spearmen, but only 2 of them. He spent most of his money, I believe, on his cataphracts here, or his cavalry in general. It's about a 60-40 split, 60% infantry, I'd say, to 40% cavalry, maybe 55-45. But 4 units of Marib Camel cataphracts, very heavily armored, as you can see. And then on the flanks, he does have 2 units, 1 on either flank, of the Desert Heavy Lancers. And finally, he has the General's unit, which is a Royal Marib Cavalry. And you can see the General here with the Thurio-style shield. And then 1 other unit of the Marib Royal Cavalry, but these are just a regular unit. They don't consist of the General's bodyguard. But that is it for Max Laser's Sabian army. Very solid. Let's go ahead and take a look at what his ally has brought to the battlefield. The second army on the battlefield today, and allied to Sabian, is Pontus, commanded by Romeo, and in the front lines he has a few units of the Eastern Slingers here, 4 units to be exact, and then he's brought quite a lot of hoplites. If we actually zoom out, I think it was 5 units in total. Yes, 5 units of hoplites, and then he has 2 units of Pontic swordsmen on either flank, totaling 4. Pontic swordsmen are pretty solid, I do have to say. Pretty well-rounded heavy melee infantry. And then we come to his cavalry. So he has 3 units of Pontic Royal Cavalry. We do, of course, have the General here with a bumblebee on his shield. That is pretty cool. And the other 2 Pontic Royal Cavalry at the back. We have 2 units of Celtic Light Horse here, which is very interesting. Mercenaries, of course. And then we have 2 units of the Cappadocian Cavalry as well. So pretty interesting mix of cavalry. Some very solid cavalry like the Pontic Royal Cavalry, but then we have the mercenary Celtic Light Horse, which really aren't the best. So we'll have to see how they perform when going up against the enemy cavalry in the cavalry engagement. But let's go ahead and take a look at the enemy army comps next. The 2 enemy armies on the battlefield today. The first one is Parthia, commanded by Master Jetset, and the second one is Tylis, commanded by Kieran Latti. And I'm going to be taking a look at both of them together because they've actually both deployed in and amongst each other, so it'll be very difficult to try and sort each individual army out. However, we will pick apart the Parthian army comp first, and then we'll come back for the Tylis army comp. But if we zoom right out, you can see that we have a nice solid line here in the front of 5 units of Parthian swordsmen, and then on the flanks we've got 3 units of Mercian hoplites, 2 on the flanks and 1 at the rear. For the skirmish capabilities of the Parthians, we have the Parthian foot archers, which are actually very solid archers. I use these as Parthia quite a bit in multiplayer. They're very, very quick and also have a decent missile damage, and I think they're pretty cheap as well. They're pretty cost-effective archers. So good choice by the Parthian player to bring them. And then we get into his cavalry, because I think that pretty much rounds out his infantry. For his cavalry, he's gone for 5 units of the Royal Cataphracts. You could just see how heavily armored these guys are. 4 units of the Royal Cataphracts, and then of course we have 1 as the General. And then finally for Parthia, we've got the Indian war elephants on the battlefield as well. So that's going to make things pretty difficult for the Sabian-Pontic alliance. They don't really have any javelins to be able to combat them. However, Pontus does have the hoplites, so maybe he'll be able to lock these guys up with the spears. But we'll have to see when the battle begins. Looking back at Tylis here, he's gone for a massive infantry spam here. He's got, I believe, 8 units of the tribal warriors here in the front lines, followed closely behind by 5 units of Oathsworn, one of the best infantry units in the game. They rival some of the Roman legionary units, in my opinion. But he also has some cavalry over here. He's got 3 units of raiding horsemen, and we have a unit of noble horse supporting the raiding horsemen. And if we zip back to the other side on the flank, he has 2 units of Gallo-Thracian infantry, some cheap units to just hold the flank. And of course, we have the noble horse for the general in the center as well. And that pretty much rounds out the enemy armies. So will they be able to prevail against the Pontic-Sabian alliance, or will they be trampled underfoot by the superior infantry? We'll have to see what happens. Alright guys, welcome to the battlefield, and as you can see, we have the bulk of the Sabian Royal Cavalry moving forwards at a brisk pace to defend the Sabian archers, which are going to be moving into a position to defend against the enemy Parthian Royal Cataphracts, which you can see just over there under that sand dune. While there is the presence of some of the raiding horsemen as well, so we do have the Pontic Celtic Light Horse, I believe is what they're called. They are moving forwards, and hopefully we'll be able to drive them away. You can see them just coming through the brush there into the open ground, and I'm sure their plan is to try and skirmish down some of the Sabian archers. Now, the Sabian archers are getting a little bit far from Max Laser's line, so I would like to see him getting more of his cavalry closer. Looks like he is moving some of his Royal Cataphracts in, but there is a charge by the Celtic Light Horse into the Parthian Royal Cataphracts. That is a very bold move, because the Celtic Light Horse probably lost over half of that unit in the charge. Look how many of the Celtic Light Horse lay dead on the battlefield. But we are just in time to see a huge charge from the Sabian Camel Cataphracts into the Parthian Royal Cataphracts. So this is actually a more even fight, and now that the Camels got that really solid charge off, I think that the Parthian Royal Cataphracts will have lost some more of their unit, or sorry, more of their unit than when they were charging the Celtic Light Horse. If we take a look, how damaged is their unit? Yeah, 51, so not too bad actually, but this is a very expensive unit, and the Marab Camel Cataphracts only losing 5 men in that engagement. So the Royal Cataphracts definitely not doing too well there. They did get the initial kills on the Celtic Light Horse, as I said, but at a very expensive unit now being picked apart by the Sabian archers. They need to get out of here. They need to get out of range, or a very expensive cavalry unit will be lost for basically nothing this early on in the battle. And his cavalry consists of 5 of these units, 1 being the general, so if it goes down to 4, that gives the Sabians the cavalry advantage as far as numbers go. However, we do have some enemy raiding horsemen, as I said, over here on the flank. But I just want to check and make sure that the infantry engagement hasn't started. We actually do have a pretty solid charge from the Desert Heavy Lancers. Here is another charge from the Sabian Camel Cataphracts. Luckily, the Parthian swordsmen are in shield wall, but it has opened up some gaps in their lines. And with the follow-up from the Marab Spearmen, or the Marab Royal Guard, that is going to be a precarious situation for the Parthians. Their entire line is now engaged in combat. We caught those Royal Cataphracts again with the Desert Heavy Lances, got a really solid charge there, following in with some more of the Marab Royal Guard. While we do have some of the Parthian Cataphracts, the Royal Cataphracts, very far on the flank, almost behind the Sabian lines. But just cycle charge after cycle charge into these Parthian swordsmen by the Sabian cavalry is going to eventually take its toll. We also have some of the Pontic swordsmen fighting the Parthian swordsmen in melee. We do have some of the mercenary hoplites here to support them. But what is Tylis doing? It looks like all of the Tylis infantry is going to be hitting very hard into the Pontic ranks. Let's see if the hoplites will be able to hold in this charge. running down the battle line. The Tylis are fierce warriors, throwing their javelins into the hoplite ranks before charging in. We've also got, I believe, some of the mercenaries here. We've got some tribal warriors, and I don't know where the other mercenaries went, but we've also got the Oathsworn pushing in here. This is where the tide of battle will turn against these Pontic swordsmen. There's no way they're going to be able to hold out against the Oathsworn for long. But we do have some of the Pontic Royal Guard moving over here. This should be a really good charge. Oh, they did get a huge volley off, though, from the javelins. Many of the Pontic Royal Cavalry in that initial charge did fall. Actually, it looks like only 2, 3, 4, 5, so not too bad. And how damaged did that make the tribal warriors? Where is the unit? So 148, so actually not as good of a charge as it felt and looked like, that is for sure. But now we've got a very thin unit of Pontic swordsmen trying to block these units from flanking around the main battle line here. The general might actually have to engage earlier rather than later. And check this out, behind enemy lines we actually have the Cappadocian cavalry engaged with the Pontic Royal Guard, or the Pontic Royal Cavalry. Cataphracts, my goodness. But this is dire straits for the Pontic player, because not only is the Parthian cavalry better than his own, that means that once the Cappadocian cavalry has been dealt with, he will be completely outflanked. So this is not looking good for Max Laser and his Pontic ally here. We do have the Pontic general already engaged against some tribal warriors back here. We've also got the Pontic Royal Cavalry going back in for another charge. Pretty solid charge there as well. Oh, that's not good yet. Some volleys on the general's bodyguard there. Let's go ahead and take a look at how Saba is doing. I think he's faring a little bit better against Parthia. Battle line forming. Looks like the Sabian infantry holding their own against the Parthian infantry. We've also got a lot of the Sabian archers over here, and they are actually picking apart the Parthian general. We also have the Sabian cavalry engaged against the noble horse here. Now we've got the elephants charging in, trying to save their allies' general from almost certain doom. Yeah, the elephants. I'm not sure how effective elephants are against cavalry. They certainly are able to hold them up, but I think that they'd rather be charging into infantry. They seem to get a lot more kills that way. But yeah, the noble horse has shattered over here. I think that their general did manage to get away, though, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, the Parthian infantry, the Parthian swordsmen are just not having a good time. However, we do have some of the Tylis Oathsworn over here. Hopefully they will be able to turn the tide, but basically all they have to do, all the Parthians have to do is hold long enough for Pontus to be destroyed. And then all of this Tylis infantry will be unleashed on the Sabian infantry. Let's actually get some zoom-ins here of the fight. Pontic hoplites desperately holding against the forces of Tylis. And you can see scattered battle lines in and amongst. Oh no, what's going on here? This is some Tylis cavalry getting a nice rear charge onto the Pontic swordsmen here. That is going to get them to break. Again, just collapsing that Pontic flank in the center, too. We have some hoplites that are breaking as well. And it looks like as I thought, the Royal Cataphracts for Parthia were victorious over here, destroying all that remains of the Pontic cavalry. However, Saba has done much better than his ally over here, destroying the forces of Parthia, and now he's actually slowly starting to engage with some of the Tylis infantry, but he has to deal with these elephants as well. The elephants are looking pretty depleted, though. I think that the Sabian archers have a hand in that, just locking up these elephants with some depleted units of infantry and then volleying these elephants. However, the elephants desperately trying to get into the Sabian archers. There's another excellent volley as well. Elephants down to 2 at this point. Oh, they're still going to get a lot of kills, though, but there we go. Yep, elephants have been neutralized. Excellent. Well done to the Sabian archers. Let's go ahead and just put this on slow motion, because already 10 minutes has passed, but it looks like the battle is almost done when we have 14 minutes remaining. However, it's kind of gone down from a 2v2 to a 1v1 at this point. You can see the Tylis being very, very effective against the Pontic lines. Many Pontic warriors lay dead on this battlefield, and now Tylis will be able to form up to face Saba, who has just destroyed the Parthian infantry. You can see the lines here, a lot of dead Parthians, a lot of dead Parthian infantry on this battlefield. And plus, losing their elephants, and I think they've lost most of their cavalry. So that's one thing we need to check right now before we turn it back onto play here. Well, we actually do have some remaining units of Pontic swordsmen and hoplites desperately trying to make it back to the Sabian lines. But we need to see who has the cavalry advantage here. So we have the general. We have some Royal Marab cavalry here as well. That is just a hoplite unit, and we've also got a unit of Desert Heavy Lancers and some Marab Camel Cataphracts here. We've got, for the opposing forces, some Raiding Horsemen, which won't account to much. We've also got a unit of Royal Cataphracts here for Parthia, but I think that is it. The Tylis cavalry has been pretty well neutralized, so the Sabians still have the cavalry advantage at this point. So it'll be interesting to see how well Max Laser can use his cavalry. But taking stock of what is left, so there is the Sabian line slowly forming up. We've got some Gallo-Thracian infantry here. More tribal warriors. We've got a couple units of Oathsworn over to the right-hand side. Yeah, we've got 3 units of Oathsworn remaining. Both of the Gallo-Thracian infantry and about 4.5 units of tribal warriors. But these guys are getting absolutely destroyed. This Oathsworn unit will be driven from the battlefield, which is excellent. One less Oathsworn unit on the battlefield is a win for Saba. Having them completely surrounded here, we've got the Mas infantry. What was it called? Masgat Marauders, the mercenaries, and then we've got the Marab Royal Guard in behind the Oathsworn as well. So hopefully they will be able to wrap that up before the rest of the Thracian infantry comes to bear. Let's go ahead and put it back onto play. But the balance of power is still against the Sabian and Pontic alliance. But it's quite funny. There's 3 units of Pontic infantry left, and there's 2 units of Parthian infantry. So it was actually a very even trade-off, I would say. Very even trade-off. But now I think Tylis is just waiting to see what happens, which I think is a mistake. He wrapped up the Pontic player first. The Sabians just now finishing off those Oathsworn. I think he made the mistake of letting Max Laser form up like he did. I would have tried to charge him as quickly as possible and catch his units off guard. But now it looks like Max Laser is going to pull back and form up just in this stand of trees here. Maybe give his units a little bit of rest as well, or maybe it's gentleman's rules. Maybe he's allowing the Tylis player to form up as well, and just see what happens. But yeah, it looks like there's more Pontic units on the battlefield than the Parthians, but just barely. It's a very, very close fight, I would say, so far. But again, the cavalry advantage going to Saba at this point. So can they win with their heavy camel cataphracts, or will the Thracian infantry overwhelm them? Got the Parthians moving over here. This 1 unit of Parthian royal cataphracts, they could definitely do some work for the Parthian Thracian alliance. So I wouldn't throw these cavalry out. I wouldn't throw them just into melee for no reason, and I hope the Parthian player realizes that Max Laser is probably going to use his cavalry advantage to eliminate this unit right away. So I hope that the Parthian player realizes that and tries to keep it alive until the Sabian cavalry is engaged against Tylis. But it looks like, actually, that the Sabian archers are just going to form up and start to volley the Parthian units. They're kind of divided from the forces of Tylis, and I think that is a big mistake there. These guys just getting picked off for absolutely no reason. I'm wondering why he's so far from his ally, too. And it also looks like his ally is just forming up here. He has no interest in fighting the Sabins on their turf. or on their terms, I should say. We do have the raiding horsemen being activated, though, so I'm not sure if they're going to try and get a little bit of a charge off on those Sabian archers. Luckily, we do have the Sabian desert cavalry there to defend them, and the raiding horsemen have disengaged. But just look at this battlefield so far. Look at the carnage. And actually, it looks like Tylis has... Okay, I thought he was going to just start charging in, but I think he's just reforming his lines. Fair enough. Don't filter in your units one by one like this, though. This would be a bad decision. Okay, I think he's just moving up a little bit further. And it looks like Max Laser is going to move further back. So he's choosing not to engage just yet, but it's possible he's resting his cavalry and his infantry, trying to make them a little more fresh. But I'm not sure if these, yeah, I was going to say, are these Pontic swordsmen just going into their deaths, or what? And there we go. Looks like the Parthians have finally come into tow alongside the forces of Tylis. But where is he going? Okay, he's moving back to form up on this hilltop here. As I said, the balance of power is against him just a little bit. So I think in a 1v1 fight, the Tylis infantry will have the upper hand. And actually, a few more coming out of hiding. They are visible now, so they actually have a little bit more than I had first thought they did. But it's almost the calm before the storm. It's like two separate battles. We had the 2v2 originally, where the forces of Pontus and the forces of Parthia were completely obliterated. And now we kind of have the calm before the second engagement, where it'll be a 1v1 grudge match between the forces of Tylis and the forces of Sabian. But Max Laser, looks like he actually might be withdrawing to this hilltop here. Yeah, it looks like he's going to take a more defensive approach here. I think he realizes that his infantry is good, but it probably isn't as good as the Oathsworn. Even the tribal warriors, really good charge bonus. And what do we got coming in here? We've got some of the Parthian cataphracts moving in. Are they going to just charge right in? Yeah, I think that's a mistake. I wouldn't do that just yet. And now he's in range. Oh no! Again, losing a very valuable unit here. Oh man, that is a disaster. This unit is so crucial to their victory. It's the only cavalry unit that they have, besides some cheap skirmish cavalry. Please don't throw that away. Keep it for later. It's just like Mickey. That's a surprise tool that we'll need for later. Don't waste your surprise tools. You'll need them for later. Especially these Royal Cataphracts, super heavy shock cavalry. They'll be able to take on the Royal Marab cavalry, I think. That charge will destroy this heavy melee cavalry. However, the Marab Camel Cataphracts will be a different beast in and of its own. Not only are they more healthy than the Royal Cataphracts, but I think that they have... I'm not sure if it's just in Attila, but I know in Attila that camels actually cause fear amongst cavalry or horses, so I'm not sure if that's the same in Rome too. But if that's the case, then these Marab Camel Cataphracts have the edge over the Royal Cataphracts. But yes, here we go. So it actually looks like he is going to form a bit of a defensive formation. Not a new box, so I'm happy to see that he's not going to form a new box. But he's a little bit indecisive on where he wants to put his Sabian archers here. Yes, one unit of cavalry on this flank, one unit of cavalry on this flank, and he's got one in the center, which of course is his general. And he wants to keep that general alive. Speaking of generals, I think that the Tylis general is dead too, so that's probably why the Tylis player is a little bit reserved about charging in his forces. Because their morale might actually be decreased because the general has been killed. Either killed or routed, I didn't see which one. But here we go, going to try and focus these units one by one, and actually they're being formed up in a little bit of a bizarre position. This is going to give an excellent side volley. Okay, he is reforming, that's good to see. What do we got charging in? I think that the Parthian player is getting a bit impatient, and he is going to just charge in with his remaining infantry unit. There is a counter charge from Sabian. The Muscat mercenaries moving in, or the marauders. And finally, after a little bit of respite, we've got some action here. And it looks like they are, yep, they're already broken, shattered from the battlefield. Anything else going on? That doesn't look like it. Tylis slowly creeping forwards. There we go, focus down those Oathsworn. He's not going to kill any of the Oathsworn, though. They've got a lot of armor. 102 armor on the Tribal Warriors. Surprisingly, only 87 on the Oathsworn. I would have thought it was opposite. But look at that melee attack and melee damage. 51 and 45 versus the 30 and 40 of the Tribal Warriors. And the Parthian cataphracts, I think, are actually hidden in the trees. And that's what the archers are doing. They want to uncover where those Parthians are. And I think the Pontic hoplites are on this flank solely to defend against those Parthian cataphracts. There is a huge charge from the Royal Merab cataphracts, the Camel cataphracts, following closely behind as there's disarray in the Tylis lines with a charge from the Merab Royal Guard. And we've got, what do we have here? The raiding horsemen going to be picked apart by those archers. Yep. Yeah, not much else that they can do but just charge in at this point. There we go. Trying to avoid the Pontic hoplites. And where is the cataphracts? They're going very, very wide on the flank. And I think that the final engagement has begun. Yes, it has. We've got the Desert Heavy Lances over here. We've got Tylis flanking around and cresting this hilltop, but we should get a pretty solid downhill charge, hopefully. No, the Desert Heavy Lance is going somewhere else. So where are they headed to? I think he's focusing a lot of his cavalry on this flank instead, trying to defend his archers and also drive off those Parthian cataphracts, but I don't want to miss this brutal fight here. Obviously, much more Tylis infantry here than the Merab Royal Guard. Archers trying to do as much damage as possible. Over here, looking a little bit more even. And how are we looking over here? Yeah, we've got the Pontic Eastern Slingers trying to hold these units back for the time being. And there we go, finally cornering the Parthian Royal Cataphracts. We've also got the Pontic hoplites in here as well, just ensuring that there is victory on this flank. And that is a huge breath of relief for Max Laser, I'm sure. Now he will be able to focus his cavalry over here, surrounding these units with a lot of infantry, also getting a solid charge with some of that cavalry. However, in the center, it looks like Tylis will actually prevail. So again, a very close fight, even still. It's a neck and neck. Another excellent charge there, well done. Those Oathsworn surely will be breaking. And Balance of Power is starting to tip into Saba's favor. However, they have been driven from their defensive formation on the hilltop, and it looks like Tylis is trying to peel back some infantry to block the cavalry advance of Max Laser's Saba. Oh my goodness, here comes another charge. Yep, not even waiting for the whole unit to form up, they just charge headlong into the Tribal War. Or actually, these are the Oathsworn. Following closely behind by more Merab Royal Guard. And man, these Merab Royal Guard literally just holding the line so that he can pick them apart one by one. This unit over here, 40 Merab Royal Guard holding up 2 units of Tribal Warriors in this one position, allowing him to have the numbers advantage to pick these units off one by one. Just like this, we've got some Gallithracian infantry over here. Hoplites are going to pin them, and I'm sure that this cavalry will be coming back. That'd be a assault. Oh, no, he's actually moving over to this side. And here we go. I think the Tylis player realizes that this is a very precarious position he's put himself in. But Max Laser not going to charge in just yet. I think he wants these 2 units to try and engage something else before he does move in. Here we go. Let's see this charge. Oh, such a heavy hit. That unit is surely going to rout, especially with the General's Bodyguard not present on the battlefield for that added morale bonus. What a slaughter. Let's zoom out and see the state of this battlefield with 1 minute left. So we've got Tylis over here facing a final unit of hoplites, so it looks like Parthia has been driven from the battlefield, but Pontus just managed to hang on. And now Saba definitely does have the upper hand. He's trying to slow these raiding horsemen down, but he still has the general, the Royal Marab Cavalry. We'll take a look at that charge in just a second. And most of the infantry fighting is taking place just at the base of that sand dune. Very, very cool, but also very close. Let's take a look at this unit here. I think they are going to try and turn around the tribal warriors facing off against the Saba general. Huge hit there. And then he's just going to actually pull through, it looks like. Yeah, gonna pull through and then go after the remaining Tylis units fighting just below the hilltop here. Forever loyal, yes. And these Marab Royal Guard, again, just holding strong against the forces of Tylis. And look, in the space of a few minutes, look at the amount of death and destruction that has happened just on this side of the battlefield. We've got some victorious Saba cavalry moving from the trees as well. More camel cataphracts coming over here. They are going to charge into the backs of this unit here. Huge heavy hits. Again, trying to keep the Pontic hoplites alive so that at least a few of them do make it out alive. And that is the end of this replay. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the return of some Rome 2 content. I haven't uploaded some Rome 2 content in quite some time, but Max Laser did send me another very long land battle that has Max Laser and James the Great on the same team. So if you guys would like to see that, I will get it out to you sometime in the new year. But let's take a look at the end results here. So Max Laser versus Master Jet Set first, because those were the two that kind of squared off against each other. So good kills on the Royal Marab Cavalry. Desert Heavy Lances did well. Camel Cataphracts, surprisingly low kills here, but I think they were initially going for a lot of enemy cavalry, so that makes sense. They have some lower kills. The Royal Marab Cavalry here definitely doing well, 253. And his Royal Guard, look at this unit with 349 kills, and they're pretty healthy. Yeah, very solid there. Also, the mercenaries doing well, and the Sabian archers. A lot of this is against high-value targets like the Parthian cataphracts, so excellent job. Looking at the Parthian, surprisingly, even though he lost a lot of his cavalry early on, he still managed to rack up quite a few kills. And the elephants, that looks like a lot of kills, but usually, since they're so expensive, they should be getting, upwards 300, 400, 500 kills. So I think it was just unfortunate that they got tied up against the Sabian cavalry. One of his archers doing okay, the mercenary hoplites not so much, and unfortunately that Parthian sword line just melted in the face of the heavy Sabian cavalry charge. Taking a look at Tylis versus Pontus. So his cavalry didn't do as well. Again, if you remember, the Parthian cavalry managed to lock these in combat behind their lines, and a lot of them did get destroyed quite quickly. Some of the slingers doing okay. His main line, though, really suffering there. One of the hoplite units, 111, they typically don't get many kills anyways, though, because they're more defensive unit. But the Pontic swordsmen, yeah, I mean, they did well considering how overwhelmed they were. But if we take a look at the Tylis infantry, like, yeah, 145, 171, 318, 121, like, I think every one of them, most of them got over 100 kills. Some of them getting, upwards of 200, 300 kills. And then his cavalry, the raiding horsemen, surprisingly doing quite well. But he lost his general early on, which is too bad. The Royal Cataphract general dying as well early on. But just a lot of kills here. But I think that the Parthian infantry just didn't make up for it. The Tylis infantry did a lot of work on the battlefield, but just the cavalry charges from Max were relentless, destroying a lot of the Parthian army in the first couple of minutes. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one.